Hi everyone, it's me again, Claire, the girl who got married not of her own free will to Kevin. I'm continuing the story of our fake marriage and how my story ended. Interested? Give me some likes. I was shaking with fear. What do you want? Money? Ransom? I shouted. Some masked stranger leaned over to me and said, "Something more, baby. Call your husband." They gave me my phone, and with trembling hands, I dialed Kevin. "What, you miss me already? Are you cold? Didn't you wash your head? What do you want? You're gonna have to tell your dad where you went." And then Kevin froze because the man in the mask began talking to him. He told him to shut up and listen. For starters, he asked for $200,000 to be found in 2 hours and brought to the designated location.
"You call the cops or get your father involved. Your newfound wife is screwed,"
he said and hung up. Kevin doesn't have that kind of money, and even if he did, he wouldn't give that kind of money for me. He and I hate each other. Another stranger came out of the shadows and in a distorted feminine voice asked,
"Did I? You just got married. What's past, love?"
"It was all bogus. The marriage was bogus. Please let me go or let me call my father. He's got money for you." The two of them looked at each other and left the room. I was left alone, tied to a radiator. For a long 2 hours, they were gone. Then a man burst into the room and started yelling that Kevin wasn't picking up his phone. He made me call him again. I dialed the number and heard Kevin was hanging out somewhere. "Where are you anyway?" "I'm at a party, decided to hang out after soccer. Why? Where are you?" "Are you fucking drunk? Kevin, you idiot piece of shit! I get kidnapped and you're drinking?" "Can't hear you very well. There's music blaring. I'll be late and drunk, baby, so don't wait up." He hung up on me. That jackass didn't even believe I was taken. He thought I was setting him up for revenge. Ugh, asshole, I hate him. "Call my father. I told you it's no use." "We need proof to make him believe. I'll cut you off so he knows it's you, and we'll also take some pictures." "What? Cut me off? What? No! No!" In a minute, I had no more hair on my head. The perpetrator took my photos and sent them to Kevin on Messenger. And you know how he replied? That I was a good actress. And on the message with my hair, he wrote, "Ew, that's gross," and sent a picture of my hair in the trash. "I'll kill him," I yelled. When those two realized 2 days later that Kevin was no good, they decided to take me somewhere else. Why wouldn't they want to call my dad? Dad must be busy with business. He stopped calling me ever since I got married. What, did he shrug off responsibility or something? I was transported with a bag over my head, just like that time. I couldn't see the road, and when they took the bag off, I saw a strange room, like a barn, but it seemed familiar. I couldn't remember what it was. I had no energy left. Even though they were feeding me and taking me to the bathroom, I was still weakened and exhausted. I didn't even have the strength anymore to be afraid. The perpetrators were up to something. The battery on my phone had died, and they let me use theirs. I asked Kevin again to send the money and understand that this was no joke. I even cried. He was silent at first, and then he dropped the wheelhouse without saying anything. "I told you, he hates me!" The man was freaking out, throwing his chair from side to side. The woman tried to calm him down, and they left. After a couple of minutes, I saw something familiar on the wall. An old, dilapidated piece of paper reminded me of my childhood, how I had drawn it and given it as a present. Suddenly, the room looked different in my eyes. I suddenly remembered the place, and my breath stopped. That's right! I used to hide the little knife I used to cut bread with to feed the swans. I'd been here before, and I used to feed the birds. Bingo! I pulled the knife out from under a plank on the floor and cut my ropes. Now I had to find a weapon to defend myself. I found my old bat from my childhood. Clutching it as tightly as possible in my hands, I waited for the door to open so I could strike. Someone came in. "Ah!" I yelled and hit someone in the shoulder with all my might. "Are you crazy? That hurt!" yelled Kevin. "Kevin? Kevin, is that you? God, is that you?" It's me, don't touch me, it hurts." My dad ran in after him. I was so scared. The perpetrators were unmasked, and it was my mother and her lover, my father's former security guard. My mother used a voice distortion device so I wouldn't recognize her. It turned out that he and Kevin and Dad had been tracking my phone the whole time, but couldn't recognize the location because of bad connection. Kevin decided to pretend like he didn't believe me so he could take the criminals elsewhere. The second resting place was the barn near the lake house, where my mother and I used to vacation together when I was smaller. My father guessed almost immediately who'd kidnapped me, recognized his guard's voice, and he knew that's where they were coming because they lived in that house. That's how I was released. Kevin took me to the hospital, half conscious. I felt worse that my own mother had done it. She found out that I had married and my father's stock had risen, and she also found out that Kevin and I had come out of so-called isolation, only she thought we were in love, not cold calculation. When I opened my eyes, I saw Kevin asleep, clutching my hand tightly. I tugged it and he woke up. "Oh, you're awake. How are you? Do you want something?" "It's okay. You don't have to play around. There's no press here anyway." Yeah, and the nursing staff?" "Yeah, right." I was happy to see him. I even wanted to hug him, but I knew I didn't need to. We got home a day later. Kevin was acting surprisingly weird, cleaning up after himself, making the TV quieter, bringing me food in my room, and constantly asking if everything was okay and if I needed a doctor. After everything, our father said that there was no leak in the press about what had happened, so to people, we were living a normal life and obliged to show up at the investor reception. We dressed nicely. I was in my favorite black dress. Kevin's jaw dropped when he saw me. The reception was low-key and easygoing. We went everywhere together, and suddenly I saw someone I knew. I was so excited. Harry and I had gone to school together before, and the three of us sat down at a table. Harry and I started chatting. Kevin was yelling at him and pulled me closer and closer to him. "There's a rumor going around that you two got married just on a date." "Uh-huh." "What kind of nonsense is that? We love each other, don't we, honey?" "Really? Then name a favorite color." "Black." "Dish?" "Seafood pasta." "Make of a car?" "A Mercedes." "What does she think money can't buy?" "Devotion and love." You know her pretty well." What? How does he know so much about me? Does he remember our conversations? I was surprised. At the end of the night, Harry had been drinking a little and acting strangely. He asked me to go out with him and told me that he still kept my picture. I had been in love with him a long time ago, and I gave him the picture and told him I would wait for him. Strangely enough, I had dreamt of that moment, but now I realized that I was wrong. I no longer felt anything for him. When Harry asked me to go on a secret date with him, I said no, and then he started freaking out, grabbing my arm and hurting me. And then Kevin showed up. He punched him with his fist, and Harry fell right into the water. "Don't you dare touch my wife!" he yelled. Angry, Kevin grabbed my arm and took me home. I told my father we were tired. We went into our house, sat down on the couch, and I said, "Look, Kevin, tonight my father said we'd done our part, that it's done, we can go our separate ways. I'll leave tomorrow morning." I got up to go to my room, but Kevin stopped me and kissed me. Another strange thing, but butterflies fluttered in my stomach, and I reciprocated by unplugging my phone when my dad called. Breakfast was waiting for me in the morning. I looked at my spouse with different eyes. "How do you know so much about me?" "We've lived together for 3 months. I learned about you." "I thought you didn't like me." "I didn't until I almost lost you. I hurt you at soccer. I'm sorry. I misbehaved." "It's okay. That's what happens in marriage." Later, our dads came to us and officially told us that we could make our choice and live our lives. But Kevin, taking my hand, said he wanted to keep living the way we were. I was very happy at that moment. A marriage of convenience turned out to be the best decision I ever made.